Welcome to 2 Cents We See Scary Movies, the podcast where we break into horror one theme at a time. This month, it's home is where the horror is, because sometimes the real terror isn't what's outside your house, it's who you invited in. I'm Talon, the one who's been to enough dysfunctional family dinners to know that if someone ends up stabbed with a meat skewer, it's not even the top 5 worst things that happened that night. And my co-host is Dan, who would never willingly attend a family gathering unless it promised bloodshed, free therapy, and an open portal to hell. This week, we're talking about You're Next, a home invasion horror film where family secrets, bad blood, and worse intentions all come crashing in with crossbows. Let's get into it. And oh my God, I got through that whole thing without fucking up once.
There you go.
Although I do want to say something real quick before we get into the movie.
Yeah.
So, whenever our movies come out, whenever our episodes come out, I listen to them or put it on YouTube or whatever.
Right.
But I listen to everyone. Oftentimes, when I listen to them, it makes me think of other things. I'm like, damn, why didn't I think of that when I watched the movie or we were talking about the movie or whatever? Deadstream just came out, which is, of course, this movie right now that we're doing is going to be a few weeks after Deadstream. But Deadstream just came out. And as I was listening to it, I got to thinking, how did this motherfucker have Wi-Fi?
That's true.
I was like, how did he have Wi-Fi? Did we miss that part? Did he say that he brought some kind of special something or other?
No, it was just implied.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. There's no way he had fucking Wi-Fi out there.
Yeah, I mean, especially like in the house because the house had no electricity.
Right. Maybe it was just a fever dream. Maybe it never really happened.
Maybe.
Anyway, so that was my special thought for the week. There's been other times too where, and I've never brought it up, but there've been other times probably listening to something like, oh, yeah, wait, what about this? But that one for some reason, because I just listened to it today on my way back from Myrtle Beach. So it was fresh. It's fresh in my mind. So
Gotcha.
Anyway, all right, go ahead.
All right, so as stated, we're doing You're Next. It's 2013, rated R. The movie starts with some scary music going on, and we hear a girl moaning in the background. And we see, at this point, 2 people smashing the back of the door. The girl that's on the bed, because at this point, again, as usual, we don't know the people's names.
Right. Do we ever know their names?
This set, I don't think so, unless it's like near the very end of their scene. The girl looks absolutely unimpressed.
Oh,
like, I mean, the guy is going to town and she's just like, all right, I wish I was next to a dead cow.
Yeah, I had all kinds of thoughts and questions about this scene here, but go ahead. Before I get into that.
And honestly, the dude looks old enough to be a grandfather. I mean, not just her father, like looks old enough to be a grandfather.
Right. Because when he was finished, she, of course, the whole time she looked so like, let's hurry up and just get this over with.
Right.
And then he just rolled over, I gotta take a shower. And that was that. Yeah. And then when he got out of the shower, I was like, oh my God. I was like, because she's a young, cute girl. And I was like, what the fuck is she doing with this dude? Now, because sometimes, looks aren't everything. But he was distinctly older than her. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But usually, go ahead.
The thing is, it could have been a sugar daddy situation.
Maybe, or like she was like a prostitute. Because he looked like somebody that just got out of prison. And he just had that look about his face and the way he looked or whatever. Although, I don't know how they were affording this house because it was a pretty nice house. But she was young and attractive. He was much older. And even though, because a lot of times, if you have something that isn't attractive physically to most people, a lot of times they make up for it in personality.
Right.
Or dick, whichever. So,
I mean, it's right there. So.
Yeah. And I'm guessing dick wasn't it because she didn't look thrilled at all. And I'm going to guess maybe personality, although his rolling over and just go take a shower didn't seem like a whole lot of personality was involved there. He seemed like he was just doing what he was doing to fulfill his own purposes, and that was that.
Right.
So, with no regard as to her or anything else. So, absolutely. I was like, what the fuck is she doing with this dude? I don't understand. But anyway, that was my thought on that whole part of the scene. But go ahead.
Yeah. So while he's taking a shower, she finally gets up and gets partially dressed and goes to another room. As she's walking there, we have a long shot outside through the window, and there's somebody possibly watching because that's what the feel
Yeah.
of it is. And there's a creepy piano chord plays like really quick, like a dun.
Yeah.
So like we
Right.
know that there's something coming, but we don't know what.
Right.
She looks outside, and the thing is, like this area that they're in, it's kind of richy,
Yeah.
well off sort of thing. And there's a utensil wind catcher.
Right.
Like forks and spoons and knives. Like,
And rusty. Yeah.
yeah, I would not imagine this sort of thing in this type of a neighborhood, but there it
Right.
was.
Yeah. It was everything that all the silverware he collected from prison that he didn't turn into shreds.
Right.
Yeah.
So she sees that the sliding glass door is open and she closes it. Doesn't really think much of it, but I mean, I would be like, why is this like this?
Right. Exactly.
She puts music on this really retro multi-disc player. I
Oh,
remember
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
things. It's like the 12-disc CD players, and
I had the captions on, and when the music came on, every time it came on, it said upbeat, groovy music. I was like, "Yeah, this is groovy."
right? Yeah, woohoo! The groove
Yeah.
is in the heart. Yeah.
I love that song. Yeah. But it
Uh,
wasn't even like that. It was when I think groovy music, I think like, 60s music. It was not
right?
60s music. Yeah.
No, not at
I
all.
also thought it was odd because this song plays a few times in the movie, and I thought it was odd 'cause she put it on repeat, but she put a whole disc in there. Was it a single? A disc single? Because it was the same song every time it restarted.
Yeah, that's a good question. Or maybe that's the only song they could afford for the rights. So as she turns on the player, she makes herself a drink while he's still in the shower. She ends up sipping the drink, and there's a bright light outside that she didn't really notice before. And she looks behind her. Then we flash over to the dude. He's getting out of the shower, and he goes into that room, and he takes a sip of the drink that was miraculously there.
Right.
I mean, to
She must have been
him,
very she must have been very considerate of him by going
right?
and making him a drink and bringing it to him, more considerate than he was to her.
Right. At any rate, there was like a drink sitting there, and he just like randomly goes over and drinks it. He looks over at the sliding doors and he sees "You're next"
Right.
in a red substance, because we don't know what the substance is yet.
And it's backwards.
Right. And it is backwards. He finally gets close enough to it. He starts to realize that it's blood, and the camera pans out and you see the girl's body in the door, and he's like he starts backing up and he turns around, and behind him is a guy in a all black clothing with, at first, what I thought was a wolf mask, but as I think about it, it was a sheep mask
Yeah.
that lunges at him with a really, really like long Crocodile Dundee sort of knife. He screams as he gets silenced by a slash in the throat, and we see blood on the glass. So that's the end of that scene. And I can confirm that we did not get names for those people. Maybe it was in the subtitles, but we did not get names of those people.
Yeah, I didn't see any names at all. I don't even know if well, he's the only one that really spoke. She didn't even speak.
Yeah, no, she didn't really say anything. She was
Yeah.
probably so distraught of what was going on.
The sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next scene is a long shot of the desert. There's a Jeep driving down the road. We see a couple in the Jeep. They're discussing the neighbors' houses as they drive by, just kind of talking about various bits of gossip. They end up arriving to their home, and there was some like menacing music that came on and then stops really quickly. They go inside the home and they're completely in silence. They're not really talking to each other at this point, but it's no big deal. They're just quietly doing whatever it is that they need to do. We find out later that the guy's name is Paul, and he goes to unlock the door, but he finds that the door is open. They go in, and he thinks nothing is missing and remembers that there were some workers there earlier before he shows up to the house. So he had some work done, and he's like, probably left it unlocked. The woman that we learn is Aubrey walks through the house taking sheets off of all the furniture. After that, we see another driving scene with a much younger couple. The male's name is Crispin. He is the son of Paul and Aubrey.
Now, how would you think Crispin is spelled?
I have it as Crispin, as in like Crispin Glover.
Right, that's exactly how I would have thought it was spelled, but whoever did the subtitles spelled it Crispian, Crispian,
Crispian. Okay.
which is not
All
how I
right.
would think it would be spelled. Little fun fact.
Let, let's Crispian up the chicken. He's talking to the woman next to him, which we later find is Erin, which is his girlfriend. And they're just kind of like just going back and forth. He's talking about his family, and he's like concerned that she may not get along with his dad because he used to be a defense contractor, and kind of leaving it open that maybe Erin is more like on a tree hugging hippie sort of realm, but there's really no evidence of that whatsoever.
No, and honestly, I didn't even catch that part.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that they were talking about that and that he was worried about it.
yeah. She's like, "Oh, a defense contractor?" Crispin gets all uncomfortable. He's like, "Yeah." He asks if it's okay with her having dinner with a fascist.
God, how did I missed all of that.
She just wants to make a good impression, so she's willing to deal with whatever she has to because she loves Crispin and wants to get along with his family. And then Crispin reminds Aaron that Aubrey, his mother, is on some new meds, so she might be a little off. We are back at the house, and Aubrey is cleaning up. There's a big bang that's heard upstairs, and the chandelier moves. Paul comes around the corner and he says, "Hey, I fixed the furnace." She asks if he heard the noise upstairs. He's like, "No, I was downstairs in the basement." She feels like there's somebody upstairs. She ends up running to another room. Paul's like, "Who's there?" Aubrey is absolutely convinced that someone's upstairs. He says that, "Why don't you go wait outside? I'll go check it out." He's annoyed, but he does it anyway. She goes outside while Paul goes upstairs, and Paul's like yelling, "Hello, hello," as if anybody who was there is going to answer you. Like, I'm sorry, but if I'm going into someone's house to kill them or to harm them in any way, if you're going to yell out, "Hey, is anybody there?" I can guarantee you I'm not going to be like, "Yeah, I'm right here."
And we have that in so many movies. There's so many movies where, of course, there was Beaver Lake with the hide and seek, and
Right.
then in New Year, New You, they were
Yeah.
yelling out for them. It's like, who the fuck's gonna answer you? No one who's even
Right.
close to smart enough would answer that question.
It's not a time to play Marco Polo.
No, not at all.
So he goes into a room and turns on the light, and he's looking around the room and he hears a knock on the closet. He turns and starts to open the door, and Crispin grabs him from behind and scares the shit out of him because he says, "Hey, you scared the shit out of me." See, that's my writing from work. The client said this, the client exhibited this as stating they did this. Crispin asks why is mom crying in the driveway
She was terrified. She was terrified
through
in a good
most of the movie.
through most of the movie. Even when they
Yeah.
first got there and the door was unlocked, she was super
Yeah.
terrified.
I mean, she does a good job portraying like anxiety and things like that.
Well, she's a horror movie queen. What's her freaking name? Barbara Crampton. Yeah.
So Crispin and Paul leave the room that they were found in. They head downstairs. The cracked door that Paul was opening cracks open a little on its own after they leave. Ooh,
Ooh.
maybe the wind.
Like a hurricane in there.
They go down and check on Aubrey, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She hugs Crispin. Aubrey and Paul go inside while Crispin and Aaron are outside joking about the situation. Now we see a dark hallway, and Aubrey is walking through through to the kitchen, and we have a very brief shot of the outside. She's getting some water, and we see a person in the sheet mask outside in the window reflection. Then we see Aubrey going back to her room, and she doesn't see the person outside. The next day, Crispin wakes up and he goes downstairs, and there's four people here. The man that we figure out is Drake later greets him and is play fighting as it's his brother. Crispin starts getting weird about the fake fighting. He's like, "Hey, hitting me in my face." Drake's wife, Kelly, goes to give a kiss to Crispin on his cheek. Drake is making fun of Crispin's weight, calling him fat, and it gets it gets underneath Crispin's skin. Then there's like random chatter amongst everybody. And to be clear, Crispin really isn't that fat.
No.
He really isn't.
And
I
I
mean,
I don't think they stated it, but I'm assuming the dynamic is Drake is the older brother and
yeah,
Crispin is younger than him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like he's like the middle child, or
Yeah.
at least the middle of the boys.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. There's going to be another
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. And another kid.
Right.
There's four of them.
Then the next scene, Aubrey's washing dishes. Erin comes in asking if she needs help. At first, Aubrey's like, "Nah, I'm good." Then she's like, "Oh, wait, you can probably go get milk from the neighbors. Yeah, you can go fetch some milk." Seriously? What year are we in? When like you have to go ask your neighbors for milk.
Although I'm gonna guess that they were pretty far out, and that'd probably be easier to just quickly go to the neighbors to get milk or sugar or anything like that, and then to go all the way out to a store because they probably were a ways away from a store. But that's the only reasoning I could come up with as to why you'd go to the neighbor's house to ask for milk.
Oh, hold that thought,
Okay.
because we'll get to something on that. Aaron goes outside and sees Crispin and his brother working. And they both ask, if she wants to help them out, and she's like, "No, I got to go get milk." So she leaves. Paul was there, and he asked Crispin, about his fellowship that he was applying for. And Crispin tells him that it's not going well because a lot of people have applied, and there's a lot of nuances that didn't work out. Paul looks at him in disappointment. He's like, "Well, other people can seem to get it without all of that."
Right.
And which kind of makes Crispin feel a little shitty. Drake goes to see Kelly, who comes out of the shower, and they're talking about the family a little bit. Drake pulls off her bra, and she's not feeling it all that much. She's like, "I just got out of the shower." No. Drake isn't really happy with this response, so he walks out of the bathroom and asks if she's got some Vicodin. And she's like, "Yeah, I got some in the bag." Now, Erin is walking a really, really long distance to go get milk. At least that's what it looks like, because she's on this desolate road and there's nothing around her but trees and grass.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't take a car. Like, take the car.
And that's why I'm saying, like, backing up, I probably would have done that. I just would have taken the car and just gone to the store.
Well, of course, it depends on how far the store is. I mean, if they're way out there, it could be, 30, 45 minutes to the store, and then another 30,
It
45
looks like she
back.
walked 30 miles for it.
But she could have driven, and if she'd driven, she probably could have driven like 5 minutes to the neighbor's house. I mean, the neighbor wasn't close, but I don't think they were as far as the store. Otherwise, there'd be a store in between the houses.
Right. All right. So as she's walking to the neighbor's house, we see that it happens to be the same house that we saw in the beginning with creepy grandpa.
Right.
She can hear music playing really loud because the CD player, as you said earlier, is on repeat.
Playing that upbeat, groovy music.
Right. She sees the man sitting on the couch, but as we see it, he's dead.
Right. Yeah, we saw him die. Yeah.
She asks if anybody's home, and no one answers, so she walks away. And now we're at nighttime. We don't know if Erin makes it home or not. Another car drives up into the parking lot, and a woman gets out. We learn that it's Amy, who's greeting her mother. Amy introduces her boyfriend, Tariq. Then they introduce Felix, the son, and his girlfriend, Z. So Felix looks like he might be the younger child.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was the youngest or if Amy was the youngest, the daughter. But I knew they were two of the two younger ones. Yeah.
Well, when I say Felix is the younger, I mean the younger of the boys. I can't tell.
Yeah.
I can't tell if Amy's younger or older than any of them.
Yeah, I assumed she was the youngest of all of them.
Yeah,
but it could have been either one. I wasn't 100% certain.
Because I mean, she doesn't look old by any stretch.
No,
and she doesn't really look young either. So if there's like a separation, it's only by a couple of years.
Yeah.
Felix also introduces his girlfriend Z, and she's like the hardcore, too cool rocker chick.
Yeah.
And Aubrey was just like, "Oh, Z?" And so she's not really, feeling the vibe there. But, she still invites everybody in. Amy hugs Crispin, and Erin is being introduced to Felix. And all the family annoying greetings are going on. Like, "Oh, hi, I'm so happy to see you."
Right.
Yada, 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 all that bullshit. Everybody but Z and Crispin appear to be happy with the situation that's in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of standing off to the side, like, kind of mopey.
Yeah, they were like, "Let's just get through this."
Right. Aubrey kind of stands up and thanks everybody for coming to the get together. And we see another outside of the house shot, and it's kind of eerie. Now back inside at dinner, they say grace, rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub sort of thing.
Erin's back, by the way.
Yes, that is true. Erin is back at the dinner table. Yes, she made it home safely. Drake thanks everybody for being there. Crispin seems a little annoyed. Z appears humored by the whole thing. Like, it looks like she's kind of getting off on the animosity in the room. Drake asks what Tariq does. Find out that Tariq is a filmmaker who likes to make documentaries. And they're talking about his career, but Drake is being very diminutive about it. You
Yeah.
know, like just kind of making fun of him through the whole thing, saying, "Oh, if you did commercials, I'd love that." Because commercials could be documentaries, and he just keeps going on and on and on about it. And Tariq is getting really annoyed.
Right, and so is Amy, the
Yeah,
sister. It's funny because okay, so obviously Drake is a dick. He's very condescending and obviously thinks he's the best of all of them there. So the guy's like, "Yeah, I do documentaries, and I've only made one, and it was featured at underground something in Chicago or whatever, some underground film festival." And he asked this stupid question, "Underground?" He and his
like
wife are both like, "Underground?" He's like, "Was it under the ground?"
right.
What?
That's so
And
stupid.
and then so Tariq is like explaining, "No, no, no, it's, this whatever." And then he's like, "Ah, you know what I really love are ads. Ads are great. I feel like you really have to gotta get your point out really quick and you gotta make it work and make it." And he's going, and I'm like, "Ads?
Right.
You're talking to a documentary filmmaker about how cool ads are and how hard it is to do and all that." And then he says something about, I've seen, of course, Tariq, you could tell he's irritated by it, but he's trying not to come off as irritated. He's trying to keep his shit together.
Right. He's trying to be
And
cordial about it all.
yeah, so he's trying to explain, documentaries and how they're very different from ads. And, well, I've seen ads for documentaries and
Right.
what? Okay, dude. So yeah, Drake is obnoxious the whole time.
Yeah. So we also see at the table that Crispin and Aaron are talking to each other and laughing, and it appears that it's different than what's going on at the table.
Right.
And Drake sees it and he becomes like the interrogator of the group. Like, what are you laughing at? And then he starts, "Hey, Crispin, wasn't Aaron one of your students?" He's like, "Yes, at one time she was, but no longer because of the ethics behind it." Drake gets judgy about it and he's like, "Well, the relationship, it's unprofessional." Crispin calls him out on it, like, "What did you say?" Drake is just being a douche about it. "Well, I didn't say anything." Crispin and Drake start arguing. Paul blames Crispin for the fight because Crispin called Drake out on his bullshit.
Right.
And so a large verbal fight begins. You really can't hear what's going on because it's all,
Yeah,
like
they're
yelling and
talking over each other.
screaming. And so Tariq turns around and he sees something out the window that catches his eye, no pun intended, walks, walks to it while the fight is continuing.
And no one's really paying attention to him. He literally stood up from the table and started walking towards the window, and no one, like, Amy looked for a second, but then they all went back to listening to this argument, and
Right.
no one was really paying attention to Tariq.
So he's standing there looking out the window and something comes through the window and it appears to hit him because he's standing there and like all of a sudden like you see his feet and his legs and like you see his body jerk back a little bit, but he's still standing there. And we can't see at this point where he was hit. The family is still fighting when Drake finally stops and he opens his mouth and puts his hand on Kelly's shoulder slowly. The camera starts to pull back out, showing the entire family and Tariq. The whole table ended up turning around and seeing Tariq fall to the ground. And when he does, we see a bolt from a crossbow in his head. The rest of the family stop and look, like, what the hell's going on? And they all jump out of their seats screaming with Paul's lead. Like, Paul was like the first one. As soon as Tariq hit the floor like a sack of potatoes, Paul was like up out of that chair. A couple of them run out of the room,
Yeah, the
and
2 that ran out were Felix and Z.
they seem to do that a lot.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna get out of the way and avoid all whatever the hell's going on in here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if Drake got hit at this point or if he just fell over because he slipped on some glass, but he ends up falling over.
Yeah, as he was running over and ended up passing by the window, the person shot again and got him in the back, and then it's when he fell.
But
Yeah.
I'm talking about when they initially started running out of the room. He like all of a sudden like falls down.
Yeah, he got hit
And
by the arrow.
yeah, but not in the back at this point. This is before the back.
This is when I just watched this. Like,
Oh, we're gonna fight? Are we gonna
Yeah.
fight?
I watched it yesterday, and then I just watched it before we started the show, and he got hit in the back with the arrow as he
Right.
was running because there was all this chaos and everything, everybody's freaking out because Amy's losing her shit because her boyfriend just got shot in the head with an arrow, and everybody's, like, crawling back and forth under the table and, trying to get to whomever, and there's all this crazy shit going on, and as he's running by the window, he gets shot in the back with an arrow. I don't remember him falling any other
Right.
time.
But this is before he was running though. That's the thing. It was before he was running.
Oh, did he fall out of his chair?
Yeah. Like around that, it felt like that he slipped on something or whatever, but
Oh,
he
I don't
ended
know,
up
I don't
on the
remember that.
floor.
Oh.
And another bullet comes through, doesn't hit anybody. But we see Amy's like laying on top of Tariq. Aubrey's in the front of the window. Don't know why. Drake pulls her down, and at that point, that's when he gets hit in the back.
Okay.
Because he's trying to save Aubrey. And then another random bolt comes through, doesn't hit anybody. And everybody but Felix and Z are in the dining room. Everybody's trying to use their phones, but the signal's blocked. Like they can't get out. And everybody's like, oh, I had it before, and all of a sudden I can't have it. And Christmas starts talking about cell phone jammers and
No,
everything.
it
And
was Felix, 'cause I have a
was
whole
it
comment about
Felix?
this. Yeah.
Okay. So Felix was talking about, jammers, and Drake's like, well, how the hell do you know about all this shit?
I love the dinner scene and all of this chaos that takes place. I thought this was a really good scene, and I love the dynamic and the conversation of the dinner scene and how much they were at each other's throats even before all of this shit happened.
Right.
And then after the crossbow attack, they're all still throwing jabs at each other
Right.
because Drake, who is, has been hit with this arrow in his back, and he's laying on the floor, and people, his wife's like, "Oh my god," and Aubrey's like, "Oh my god," and of course, Z and Felix are over in the hallway there area, and somebody says, "Call 911," and everybody's like, "Oh, our phones aren't working. Our phones are working." And so Felix is like, "Oh, they're probably jammed. They probably use a cell phone jammer. They're illegal, but you can get them on the internet." And Drake is like, "You're such a low life." He's like, like still
Right.
talking shit, and he's like, "God, you're such a low life. Of course you would know that." And Felix is like, "What? I'm just trying to explain. Like this is what's probably happening." He's like, "Oh my god, you're such a low life." And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." Because there's so much of the chaos that goes on from this point on. They're still talking shit to each other. Like
Yeah.
they can't seem to stop and be a
No.
little bit considerate. There's like one point where they finally get to be where they aren't as bad, but for the most part, especially in the beginning of all of this, they are still just throwing jabs at each other.
Yeah. Yep. The siblings just keep fighting.
Yeah.
Particularly the boys. Amy didn't really seem to get much into that. It
No, she
seemed like
had her
more
moment.
of
She has her little moment in a little bit, but which I have a
yeah,
comment on. But yeah, she doesn't get into that whole thing. Yeah.
yeah. So as the fight between Drake and Felix is going on, we have more bolts coming in. As everybody continues to scream. As they come through. They finally figure out a way to get out of the dining room. One by one, they pick up a chair and they're using it as a shield as they're going by the window.
I have a comment about this. I
Okay.
don't know why they picked up chairs to shield themselves. Why didn't they just crawl on the floor? Why didn't they just crawl on the floor under the window? Like, why do you need a chair? Like,
Because it would have made sense.
well, yeah, if you want to stand up and run, but you could have also crawled. I feel like you could
Right.
have crawled and not needed a chair. I'm guessing the only reason why they probably did that because they needed to add all of this stuff to Aaron's repertoire
Right. That we learn
because
about later.
yeah. So that's the only reason why I assumed that they did this with this way instead of just everybody crawl over to the other room. Because I was like, "What the fuck are they doing this for?" But anyway, it seemed like
Yeah.
unnecessary stuff.
So as people are running past the window, we get like a window shot of the person with the crossbow, like watching everybody run through. Aubrey is panicking, saying that she can't move, and they finally get her to go. And Erin's last. She has a chair and she's running through, and a bolt actually hits her chair. Someone ends up pulling her into the other room, and there appears to be no windows in this room at this point, so they're temporarily safe. We later learn it's the front entryway of the house. Everybody's debating whether or not to pull the bolt out of Drake's back. I'm not a medical professional, but I do know that you're
Yeah.
not really supposed to pull objects out of your body if they're impaling you. You
Yeah.
do your best to break them off, not pull them out.
Right. Yeah. Because you want it because you're just gonna let blood free flow. it seals it off basically to some extent.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Yes.
So they give him a couple Vicodin to calm him out.
Mhm.
And Aaron and Paul are looking through the door's windows, like tiny windows up top,
Yeah.
and they look dirty as shit.
Yes, I couldn't figure out if they were dirty or stained in some way. I was like, "God, it's, like, so foggy looking."
And it's like,
I don't know
how
how
are
you're
you
seeing anything.
right? Exactly. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that caught that. I think it was Crispin that suggests them running to the cars. This time frame was a little confusing about who was saying who because a lot of it was off camera.
Well, Crispin and Drake were still arguing
Right.
about dumb shit. I can't remember if it was Crispin or Felix, but one of them suggested running out to the car,
And,
and
and then someone immediately said, no, we can't do that because it's not safe.
well, they started arguing about who the fastest runner was. Drake and Crispin were arguing about which one of them was the fastest runner. Drake said Crispin was too fat, and Crispin's
Right.
like, "I'm not fat." And
Right.
they're going on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the point where someone suggests that the fastest runner goes, like you said.
Right.
Drake's like, oh, he's like, I'm the fastest, but I have an arrow in my back. And Crispin sarcastically asks, how does that affect your legs?
Yeah.
And Kelly's like, he's got an arrow in his back. And Crispin's like, stop yelling at me, as if he's like a child, like the child disappointment of the family. So they start fighting about Crispin being fat, too fat to run and everything. And Aaron is on the side of everybody needs to stay inside. Amy thinks that nobody believes in her and she wants to run. Like, this is not the time to argue about nobody ever believes me or trusts me in things.
This
I'm
is the one
sorry, there's fucking bolts coming through the goddamn window.
Yeah, this is where she adds in her 2 cents about where she is in the family hierarchy and dynamics. I laughed at this part because as they're all yelling who the fastest is, she's like, I'm fast," and no one's really paying attention to
Yeah,
her.
no one's acknowledging
And
her.
so she starts crying basically about it. She's like, "I am fast." She's like, "No one believes in me. No one believes that I can do this or whatever." And then the dad's like, "Oh, I believe in you, dear. I believe in you." And I'm
Right.
like "Really? This is this is your time to talk about how no one in the family respects you or believes in you or anything." I'm like, "Really? This is when you wanna do this?"
Right. Or if a Paul to validate her, be like, oh yeah, I trust in you. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Like, what? I thought all that was funny. This whole part I loved. I thought it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
So Amy is standing back as Felix and Z are moving a table and the vase falls off and breaks. They kind of stare at it like nothing comes of it because they look at it as if like it was something important,
Right.
but it's not referenced at any other point. So I just felt like that part was somewhat useless.
I was wondering about it too a little bit, but I thought, well, I guess it's just, kind of we're in a rush to do this and it's a focus on they have money. This is probably an expensive vase.
Right.
And but
That
in
could
the
have been.
rush of doing anything, it falls off and breaks. But it's like, do we really give a shit about this vase right now? Because they kind of looked at it, but they're like, we have more important family arguments to have other than
Right.
worrying about this vase.
It's like, no, it's not my vase.
Right.
And also, I do want to, confess, I've seen this movie like a while ago, but there's certain parts of it that I forgot about.
I'd never seen this before. It's my first time watching it.
So Amy prepares herself to run. Paul is like taking his sweet damn ass time opening the door.
She's revving up.
Right. Right. Well, of course, you got to rev up because it's going to make you faster. I know that helps me. So Paul finally opens the door, and now we have the slow mo run, or she's really, really, really slow at running.
Right.
But we have the slow mo run. As she's running through the door, she runs straight into razor wire that slices her throat. She falls over. Everybody's freaking out. She's gasping for air. She's, doing the universal sign for I'm choking, but no one's helping her, with CPR and shit.
Well, she's got blood. I mean, her
Right. Well,
neck
I know.
slashed
I
wide
know.
open. So yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, CPR, might work. Who knows? You never
Blow in the
know.
cut. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You have one person on the mouth, one person on the cut, and she's good to go. So she eventually bleeds out and she's laying there dead. And Erin looks through the door and she sees the wire. Crispin looks in shock, as much as Erin is. Aubrey cries, Paul consoles her. Felix and Z just look on in concern.
A lot of times, a lot of people were just kind of sitting around like almost in shock. Like they
Right.
weren't even reacting because they were just like in shock. Yeah.
Right. Aaron runs upstairs and Crispin follows. The rest of the people are crying, because they just lost Amy. As she goes upstairs, Crispin's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm making sure all the windows and doors are locked." Crispin's just like standing in the hallway. He's not helping. He's
Right.
just like standing in the hallway. She has her cell phone and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She's like, "Well, some services, even if you can't get service, you can still text 911 and it'll go through. So I'm just going to try that." Crispin's like, "Yeah, you don't really have to do that." We go back downstairs, and god damn it, Aubrey's still crying. This is a horror movie. You should have been over it at least a couple minutes ago.
Yeah. Have you not seen any other horror movies?
But she's still crying over Amy. I mean,
Right.
get over it.
She's devastated unnecessarily.
Right. Paul brings her upstairs. Aaron says Drake needs to take care of his shoulder. He's like, "Oh, it's fine." Because, he's sitting up at this point.
Yeah, I guess that Vicodin kicked in.
Right. Crispin is in shock about how Aaron's acting and taking the lead on everything. He's like, "I've never seen this kind of stuff from you." She's like, "It's a unique situation." Kind of giving a little bit of subtext to what's going to come up. And they're still going on about having somebody run to the car. Even though, Amy just got sliced up, everybody's like, we should still need to run. Aaron suggests, why don't we just put an SOS sign in the front window?
Right.
Which I don't know how that would necessarily work because their driveway seemed a little long.
Yeah, and I don't know, cops patrol way the heck out there for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Drake looks at her in a mistrustful sort of way. Paul and Aubrey are walking down the hallway, and he lays her down and on the bed, covers her up, and she asks him to stay, but Paul's like, "No, I want to go check on the kids."
Yeah, I'm like,
I know.
really?
I'm not sure that I like Paul.
Well, it's just weird that anyone would want to be left alone or leave someone else alone when you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it was just weird that they left her there
Right.
or anybody left her there. Yeah, it
Right.
was strange.
But as I said, this was where I really started not to like Paul because he leaves her in the bed and she rolls over and she starts crying. Now the camera goes back to Tariq, who's laying on the ground with the bolt in his head, and everybody is surveying the area, trying to see what they could use, what safety measures, and they're covering Tariq up with a cloth. Aaron starts going through and locking all the downstairs window, and she grabs a knife. And Aubrey's still crying. Again, 10 minutes has gone by. We need to move on. So as she's crying, we see a hand come out from under the bed. There's a man in the sheet mask pulling himself up. He has a machete. Aubrey rolls over, looks up, and Sheetman goes to swing it down, and off camera, Aubrey screams. Everybody runs upstairs while Aaron is locking windows, and Sheetman 2 punches through a window and grabs her. She plunges the knife into his arm. She's near the kitchen, so she goes in to grab another knife, and she turns around and he's gone. Drake kicks in his mother's door, and everybody's with him, and seeing a machete in her head with "Your next" written in her blood on the wall. Paul starts to break down. Like, asshole, you shouldn't have left her there. I mean, granted, you could have gotten killed too, but still, at least you would have been with her. Paul breaks down crying. He's on the floor. Kelly walks over to the blood on the wall, and she's just staring at the words. They end up dragging Paul out of the room, and they also appear to have brought him downstairs at the same time too. All the while, Kelly was still looking at the blood.
And again, I don't know why Kelly would want to stay up there by herself, knowing that there's obviously someone else in the house, and she decides to stay in the room alone.
So Paul wants to go back up and see her, but Drake and Crispin are like, "No, you need to stay downstairs." Drake asks Crispin who could do this, and Crispin just shakes his head no, like he doesn't know what's going on.
At that point, when Drake looked at Crispin and said that, I was like, okay, maybe now we're done with the stupid bullshit of the infighting and all that crap, because he seemed sincere and wasn't being a dick.
Kelly is still in the room, and she ends up walking over to Aubrey and covers her up with a blanket. She looks out the window, and she hears some floorboards in the back of her creaking. She closes the window. She walks over to the bed and looks under it. I don't know how he did it, but the sheet man scares her. Because when she first initially looks under the bed, there's nothing there. And when she walks past the bed, there's nothing there. Then all of a sudden, he pops out like, "Hi!"
Yeah, because when she was looking under the bed, I was like, oh, there's not going to be anybody in there, under there. And then because she's looking for a good time, like it's a no, she's not looking for a good time.
Wow. Wrong character on this one. There is one of those, just not
Yes, yeah,
her.
right. She's looking for a good bit, for a good while. She's looking,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you see the mask. Like I don't
Right.
know if he was hiding on the other side of the bed and then just lifted up like the blankets, and there he was.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, and then she screams and whatever. So I thought that was a weird amount of time to be looking there and not see him.
Yeah. So she ends up screaming and runs downstairs, and she runs out the door, and she luckily remembers that there's a razor wire, and so she ducks and runs. Drake goes to follow her, and he also ducks, but he forgot about the arrow in his back, and he gets caught on the wire. He falls down for a minute. He stands up. He's looking at everybody, and he does the smart thing and pulls the arrow out of his back, and he drops.
Right.
As he does, we go back to Kelly as she's running through the yard. I would say the woods, but it really wasn't wooded. So
Yeah, there was
she's
an
just running
occasional
through.
tree, but it wasn't woods. Yeah.
Right. And we see the sheep man following her. We go back to the house and they're pulling Drake back inside. Z makes a suggestion that maybe we can make it to the car because Kelly seems to have gotten away. Crispin says he'll go, and Aaron wants to help him, and he's like, you stay behind with Drake and Paul because they need help. He says he'll get the car and bring it up to the door so everybody can get in and then they can leave. Aaron looks confused, like, I don't like this plan. And Crispin keeps selling the idea, like, oh no, it'll be great, we can do this. She reluctantly agrees and gives him a cleaver. He ends up going out of the house. I believe that's where he cuts the razor wire with the cleaver and shuts the door. We see Kelly still running. She comes across, again, the house from the beginning. She's frantically knocking on the door. She can see Grandpa at the couch sitting there. She doesn't realize that he's dead because he's not moving or anything, but she's also in a panic, so she's not paying attention. She just sees like the guy possibly listen to music. She's begging and begging him to be let in, and she sees the sheep man in the reflection of the window. He like rams up and clocks her right in the face, and she goes through the window. We're back to Crispin, and he makes it to the car without issue. Do you remember what was wrong with the car? Because the hood was open.
Yeah, they didn't really say what was wrong with the car, but because the
Okay.
hood was open, I think one, the assumption was they fucked with the car, obviously, because the hood wasn't open before. So he just realized
Okay.
that it's not going to do anything.
I wasn't sure if I missed something on that. So we're back to Kelly. She's still alive, but she's trying to crawl away through glass, and it's a very slow crawl. I mean, which, the shot that she took, I'm sure should be disoriented.
I'm surprised she was even awake at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. She ends up seeing, the guy is dead on the couch. At this point, I was calling him a wolf man, but Sheep Man picks her up by the head and backdrops her on the glass table. Like, I mean, it was like watching something from like wrestling. You just like picks her up and just boom, like choke slams her.
Yeah.
He ultimately stands over her and he has an axe that he lines up to her head and he ends up golfing with it.
Yeah, he was definitely a golfer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And so he takes one swing. He leaves the axe in her head. He stares at his work and he tilts his head. He ends up walking away and he sits on the couch. Dude has really good posture.
Yeah.
I gotta say, because he was like sitting straight up, at attention, like military.
Yeah. Well, he was military, so.
Foreshadowing, not
Oh, sorry.
spoiling. Jeez, you're ruining the movie.
Got it out. I thought maybe you didn't pick that part up. I was like, wow, good catch.
So now we see Crispin's back at the house. He's like, yeah, the car's not working. He's suggesting that maybe Kelly got away. Maybe she was able to get somewhere because he didn't see anybody else out there, Kelly or these murderers. And he ends up suggesting to leave for help again.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know, what kind of help he plans on getting when he's like going out
He's
there
going to
several
run
times.
30 miles to the grocery store.
Right.
So.
And again, everybody's hesitant, like, it's not working. Why don't we do it again?
Well, actually, I think what he was going to do was he was going to run until he could get a signal. I think that's what he said. Because, their signals were jammed where they were. And if he ran out of the jam zone, I guess, he could pick up a signal. I think that's what he was going to do.
Yeah. He did say that he was going to go to the neighbors. And It really seems like everybody is so dependent on these fucking neighbors. Like everybody, go get the milk from the neighbors. Oh, go run for help to the neighbors. Oh, I'm gonna go to the neighbors.
Right, and they were relatively new neighbors because one of the things that
Right,
Paul and Aubrey were talking about in the car when they passed the house was like, "Oh, yeah, somebody moved in, blah, 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 blah," whatever. Like, they were relatively new,
right.
so they're making a lot of assumptions about these neighbors.
I've lived in my house for almost 4 years. I've seen my neighbor once.
But it's probably for good reason. You just choose not to see them. Yeah.
Right.
But I look out my windows before I go outside just to make sure there's no one else out there before I get in my car or anything else for that matter.
And also for this, I'm glad that I don't really have any neighbors that keep coming over like, oh, can I do this? No, get the hell off my land
Yeah, 'cause
before
it's the
I shoot
50s.
you.
Yeah.
So Crispin gets up and he tells Aaron that he's going to go leave again and that Aaron needs to stay and he'll be back soon. This is another guy that keeps disappearing and leaving his girlfriend to fend for herself. And
Right.
I understand times are changing and things like that, but I'm still a little old fashioned. Like, I mean, I might not be able to do a whole lot, but I'm going to try to be there and protect the person that I'm with.
Right.
That's
Although
just me. Or
I
take
guess
her with me, one of the
right.
two.
I guess he was just so overwhelmed by how good she was at what was going on and how she was handling the crisis that he must have thought, "She doesn't need me. I'm a basic loser in this situation."
Right.
So and she can easily protect everyone else in the house. I'm guessing that's what he was thinking because
Probably.
she was doing such a good job. I don't know. He was giving her credit.
Right. So Aaron looks back at everybody in the house. They say, they know that there's still someone in the house, like there's another guy. They move Drake out of the doorway and they hide him behind a curtain.
I thought that was weird. Did you think that was weird?
Very weird because
Yeah.
he's next to a goddamn window.
Right. I'm like, now, granted, there's space there. There was a lot of space between where the curtain came down and where the window was. It was like a little alcove almost, but a small
Right.
one. But I was like, really? They're gonna put him right next to this window that they obviously can break through. They've broken through other windows.
Right. And
The
it was an obvious spot where they could actually break in and hide for a second.
Yeah. I was like, this is a weird place to put him.
But so he's hiding behind a curtain. Paul's looking upstairs at this point, probably remembering the noises and stuff that he heard earlier. They end up discussing about where the best place they all could go to hide, because apparently not everybody can fit behind that curtain. The basement is suggested, and for love of God, Aaron
Yeah.
with the save says no, that's a bad place to go because this is what they could do.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
God.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Somebody with a brain.
I know, I
Somebody
was
not
like,
using lizard brain.
right. Yeah, let's not go downstairs. They can just throw a bunch of gasoline in a match and whoop, we're done. I was like, "Oh, she's a thinker."
Right. And Z looks at her kind of funny. Aaron realizes that, oh, I forgot something. She goes into the kitchen and we see a boiling liquid. Like, we don't know if it's water, oil, because it's kind of yellowish, but that could
Yeah, it
be the
was weird.
pan.
Mhm.
But a liquid was boiling. Aaron takes her coat off and moves the pot off the burner. She looks to the broken window where she was grabbed, I guess reminiscing of good times. She ends up
We're all just
grabbing
looking
all.
for good times.
Right, exactly. So she grabs various kitchen utensils and use them as weapons. She's got like knives and like serving forks and like anything that was edged.
Yeah, the meat, banger.
Right. Yeah,
They
the
call those
the mallet,
tenderizer.
the meat tender. Yeah, there we go,
Yeah,
tenderizer.
the big mallet thing, yeah.
And so as she's going back into the kitchen, the window where she's walking past breaks open and she ends up falling from the noise, like because it scared her and she falls. And all the utensils, go flying across the floor. Sheepman comes through and he's got an axe. Aaron is like laying down looking up at him. And he goes to swing it and she rolls out of the way. With that roll move, she was able to fight back. And, ultimately she ends up beating him with the meat tenderizer.
Yeah.
She nails him in the leg and then he falls down in the leg and then she hits him in the back of the head. He falls over and then she just starts like beating him in the face or in the
Yeah,
back of the head
yeah,
rather.
well, you could tell by the second hit that he was done because she must have hit,
Right.
like, his brainstem or something because he was like, "Oh," and then
Right.
she just pummeled him. Yeah.
She wasn't messing around.
No.
And Felix and Z are just like looking on. At first she looks ashamed for what she did. Felix and Z start to walk out, but she ends up lifting the guy's head and asks, "Do you know him?" Felix is like, "I can't really tell, because of the beating that she just did."
Right.
And so I'm not really sure why, but she wipes the blood off the mallet. I guess bloodborne pathogens don't want to get, mixed up with someone else's blood. I don't
Maybe
know.
she's got, OCD, or she's like a really clean
Oh,
person, maybe
true,
it
true.
could be a plethora of things, I suppose.
Plethora. That's
Yeah.
that's a word I haven't used in a little while.
Okay.
We see that Kelly's body was the object that was used to break the window. Aaron ends up thanking Felix for the help sarcastically. He's like, "Oh, it looks like you had it." At that point, she realizes that Paul isn't with them. Paul's walking through the house, like upstairs through the house, and opens a closet. He sees like a makeshift room. Like it looks like a sleeping bag, some cans, a bottle of piss. He starts to realize that someone was like watching. As he's picking up the bottle of piss, the lights go out. Felix tells Aaron to go look for the breaker, which is in the basement. She just said no to the basement, and
Right.
Felix is sending her to the basement. Felix says, "I'll go look for my dad." Paul is walking very slowly in the hallway. He opens a door. Paul closes the door as the shit is scared right out of him, as Felix and Z were behind the door. And Paul explains what he found, like talking about, someone's watching us, someone's been like living here, and Felix and Z are just like staring at him.
Yeah.
Paul is backing up, realizing they don't believe him when Sheepman comes around the corner and slices his neck with a machete.
This is Wolfman, by the way. This one's the little guy with the wolf mask.
Okay, so there is a wolf man.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's 2 sheep and a wolf.
Oh, okay.
You weren't crazy. Yeah.
Felix looks on with apathetic horror as Paul bleeds on the floor. Felix steps away as Paul is like trying to crawl near him. Paul pinballs all over the hallway until he falls on the floor, choking out. He's knocking over the table, chairs. He's
Yeah.
just making a big mess. I mean, seriously, just fall over. You don't have to. You don't have to break everything.
Supposed to be worth something.
Right. Felix and Z stand over him watching as he dies. Wolfman comes over to them and he's looking at them. Then he looks down at Paul. They look at each other. Felix asks if they had to do it in front of him, like meaning like, did you have to kill my dad in front of me?
Right.
And Wolfman just looks at him. And Z asks if he needs anything. Felix says he just needs to get washed up. Felix goes to the bathroom to wash up and stares at himself in the mirror, just probably like wondering what he was doing, or this is going off without a hitch or whatever. Some foreshadowing, but I think you're starting to get the hint here.
This is very obvious, not for foreshadowing. If it's a
Right.
foreshadowing,
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, some people still could be in the dark.
I guess.
Aaron is in the basement looking around for different things, objects, whatever. And I think this is other Sheepman who's upstairs walking with a crossbow. Aaron can hear the footsteps because they're relatively close. This Sheepman sees the dead Sheepman. Aaron is walking upstairs, still holding the meat tenderizer. A live Sheepman is crying. The reason why he's crying is he kneeled over and checked on the other guy who was dead, and he's sobbing. Flips the dinner table over. It's a pretty big friggin' dinner
Yeah,
table too, I
it
must
is.
add, and it was full of food.
Yeah, dishes, all that stuff. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
I'm sure it was probably a authentic wood, heavy, huge fucking table too, because it had all those people sitting at it. There were
Right.
what, at least 10 of them.
Yep, 10,
Yeah.
and there was like shit. I mean, there was probably at least 30 plates on the thing, like counting like serving plates and salad plates, dinner, that stuff. Like all the stuff that the hoity-toity people use. I just use one fork. They salad fork, but hey, whatever.
I use a big fork when I use a fork, or a big spoon
Right.
if I use a spoon. I eat my salad with a spoon. It's easier.
Sheepman seems to get angry as he's starting to weapon up. He's getting his axe and he's getting his crossbow. He's getting it all ready. And Erin is listening for his footsteps. As she's walking through the basement going upstairs, she ends up grabbing an awl, which is pretty long,
Yeah.
I must say. Sheepman is sitting down at this point, just kind of looking over at the table and everything, and just like, I guess, reevaluating his life. And he lifts his mask, and Aaron goes to open the door and it makes like a small click. So Sheepman looks behind, he puts down his mask and goes towards the noise with the axe in hand. Aaron is looking through the keyhole to see what she could see, and she sees his eye.
Yeah. Well, this is so funny because, of course, when she made the noise, he walks towards the sound, but there's a big stream of light coming through that keyhole because it's like a
Yes.
skeleton keyhole.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a huge stream of light coming through this hole. So you can see when he walks by, it blocks the light
Right.
and you can see it. And so then she waits for a second and then she goes to look out the keyhole because there's still light coming through the keyhole. And when she looks out, there's his eyeball. And I'm thinking, how is he not blocking the light? Like, maybe he was far away, I don't know. But
Maybe
I
they
was
were
like,
coincidentally choreographed. They did it at the same time.
they must have. Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that. They may have. Exactly. Good timing.
So Sheepman goes all Johnny on her, with the Shining reference,
Right.
because he's just banging the shit out of the door. At this point, Drake gets up and he's feeling a little woozy. And he's starting to come through.
Yeah, from behind the curtain, yeah. I
Yeah,
forgot about
yeah.
him.
Sheepman goes after him, but Aaron comes out and alls him in the back. Pretty rough too.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, this was like a long all, so I mean, it went pretty much through.
Yeah.
Sheepman looks at both Drake and Aaron, and he runs out the door. So they end up locking the door, which I don't understand because there's already another one in there. Wolfman's still there.
Well, they may not realize that even though Aaron did say at one point after killing the first sheep man, that because Felix or Z was like, "How many think are left?" And she's like, "There's at least 2," and they weren't really sure. They didn't. I don't know that I don't know if they've seen Wolfman yet. I think they've only seen sheep.
Yeah. Yep. That is.
Felix is the only one that knows about Wolfman.
Right. So after Sheepman runs out the door, Drake stands up and picks up the axe. He's like, I woke up there. Aaron's like, yeah, you were bleeding, so we hid you. He asks where Kelly is. Aaron lies, and she's like, I don't know. Who knows? Felix and Z come running downstairs asking if everything was okay. Felix says that they were upstairs because they heard noises up there.
Yeah. What was funny is he said, we heard a bunch of noise down here, so we stayed upstairs.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was like,
yeah.
Cool, dude.
Oh, that's what I meant in my note. Was Felix says that they were upstairs because they heard noises, but it was because they heard noises downstairs is why they went upstairs. Aaron says, well, one got away and she ended up stabbing him. Felix is concerned whether the guy lived or died. She's like, I don't know. And asks where Paul is, and Felix like, oh, he needed to lay down. And at this point, we're learning that everybody is kung fu lying.
Yeah.
Aaron suggests the basement this time only because of all the tools that are there. It'll be safer because they have weapons. So again, not the best plan, but at least she's thinking like, hey, I got weapons down there, so she can set stuff up or whatever.
Well, she wasn't intending to go down there to stay down there. She wanted to go down there because the dad's tools were down there and they wanted to get more tools and see if they could find other things for weapons, but then come back upstairs. That was the plan. Yeah.
And at this point, Aaron covers up Kelly with a blanket. Aaron is showing Z how to make traps, which is what they were doing was just simply like banging nails through the board. And I don't know why someone needs to be trained how to do that, but
right. When she tried to, when she was telling her how to do it, I was like, really? Like she can't figure this out?
And I mean, maybe Z has like an IQ of like 10, maybe.
Yeah.
Z looks at the hammer as she asks how Aaron knows like all this stuff that she's doing. This is where we learn that Aaron grew up in a survivalist compound and she's never told Crispin about it. She's explaining the lifestyle that she grew up in to Z as they're hammering boards. Drake asks where Crispin is. Felix says he ran out. Drax says he has to look for him and not leave Kelly out there. Felix is like, oh, what do you mean? Kelly's dead. And Drake looks at him like, what? He's like, yeah, no one's told you? He's like, oh man, I didn't want to be the one to tell you like this, but yeah, she's dead. Drake is obviously upset. He cries a little bit in shock. And Felix continues to, talk about what happened to Kelly, and Drake is crying more. And then Drake tells him to stop talking.
Yeah, he gets angry.
They're turning around and facing each other. And Drake takes a step forward and Felix stabs him. Felix says, I'm so sorry, as if it sounded like an accident, but then he plunges it deeper and stabs him with more tools.
Yeah.
Like all of them that they found in the basement.
Yeah, there were like 6 in his chest and stomach, and the guy was still going.
Yep. And at that point, Felix is like, die already.
Yeah.
Because, this is too much for me. It's like,
Yeah.
what about him? You're freaking stabbing him and it's too much for you. So Drake stands there for a moment, and that's where we see the 5 or 6 weapons in him. And he falls over, and Felix just stares at him and drags him off.
I felt kind of bad for him at this point because he's realizing now that his brother is behind all this and just killed him. And it's like, if that were to happen, I would rather just die right away. Like shoot me in the head so I don't realize it's
Right.
happening, because that sucked.
And that's the thing, he was a dick throughout, up until this point, but he started showing like a softer side as far as like his wife and wanting to go find Crispin to make sure he was okay. And then, like you said, the realization that, he was just betrayed by his brother. So back up to Erin, and she's continuing to make more boards. Z picks one up and raises it over her head. Erin looks up behind her, and Z drops the board like really quickly to her side. Erin is completely oblivious to what just happened.
I that part I didn't get.
Because the way she looked up, she would have seen at least the board dropping from her head. Because like she had it lifted up over her head. She would have seen it dropping from there. And I would have been like, what the hell are you doing?
Right. I mean, stretching? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? Because it was very obvious.
Right. So she's completely oblivious, and she's just discussing how they need more supplies to finish up what they're doing. She says that she'll go and find it if Z can stay with the boys. She then offers Z to come, but Z says, I'll stay behind and I'll finish the other board. Now, keep in mind, Erin's done all the work. Z's doing one board.
Right.
Z looks menacingly as Erin leaves and drops the board to the floor. She opens the front door and leaves it open a crack. Erin is walking upstairs slowly, seeing signs of a struggle in the hallway. She goes into a room and she sees Paul's body. She walks over and kneels down, looking at him in horror. We see Wolfman with a machete walking towards her, and she sees him, and she effectively jumps out the window. The hit seemed pretty realistic. Like when she hit the ground, it sounded and it looked like it felt like she really did it.
Yeah, it did.
It's like you're really committed to your role.
I was totally not expecting that because she threw something at him as a distraction, I guess, and it totally missed him. And then she just turned around and hard bolted right out that fucking window. And it wasn't like it was just a regular window. It was a window. It had, panes in it, like the wooden panes. It wasn't just a big old thing of window. She had to go flying through that shit. And I expected her to just throw something at him and run by him. I was not expecting her to jump out the window.
There's something in her leg. At that point, I couldn't identify what it was. It ended up being a huge piece of glass.
Right.
She's touching it, trying to take survey of what the issue was. She looks up, and Wolfman is like really hanging out the window, looking down at her.
Yeah.
At least that's the appearance of it. Like, I mean, he's like really out there. She gains some momentum and runs into the woods. She ends up stopping, and that's where she sees the piece of glass end. And again, not listening to medical advice, she pulls the glass out of her leg.
Yeah, because she's the one that told him not to pull the arrow out of Drake's back because of the obvious reasons.
Right.
But yeah, she and she had it in her thigh, which is really bad because if you have cut your femoral artery, you're fucked.
Right.
You open that shit up, but I guess she knew.
And this thing was a huge piece of fucking glass. I mean, it was huge.
It had to go through her whole leg, I would think. It was so long.
Right. And so as she's doing this, she hears footsteps and she looks behind her. Sheepman is behind her with a crossbow. He fires off once and misses her. She gets up and she hobbles back to the house. She runs in, and as she's running in, she grabs a piece of cloth and she hides behind the curtain in front of the window where they hid Drake. I mean, this is a great hiding spot.
Apparently. They should have all been there.
Right. She tourniquets her leg with the cloth that she picked up. Sheepman is walking very slowly with a crossbow in aim into the house. He looks around, the area of where he's at, trying to find her. He sees the board with nails and scoffs at it. He sees the board with nails on it because he's by the window and that's where the boards were. He scoffs at it like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
What he didn't know and wasn't paying attention was he didn't see the other board that was there.
Yeah.
And so when he stepped down, he had a nail go right through his foot.
Yeah. That was a good idea.
Yeah.
The one was a decoy. Yeah.
Right. The Wolfman comes in and Felix tells him to go check out the screaming because that's what he's paying him for. Wolfman looks at him like in disgust, but he goes and stares at him and he pulls down the mask and then he goes and checks on what's going on. Felix sits on dead mom's bed with dead mom in it as Z is consoling him because he's having a hard time with this because it's not going the way he exactly wanted it to go. Z starts making out with him, again, with his mom's dead body on the bed next to him. And he's like, no, I'm not feeling it. But Z is completely turned on by the idea of fucking him on his dead mom's bed with his dead mom there.
Right.
And how many times can I say dead mom in a paragraph?
Right.
I just really want to make the point that dead mom is there.
Yes, everybody, dead mom is there. If you didn't know.
Dead mom. Z really wanted to fuck him by his dead mom, but he says the conversation is over and walks away. Mm-hmm. She lays next to his mother, just like looking at her longingly, and then reaches over and grabs a ring that was around her necklace and puts it on and admires it.
I thought it was going to get really weird right here.
Yeah, me too.
I was like,
the way she was going, that I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Now we're back to Sheepman. The scene that we're seeing is he's just getting finished pulling the nail out of his foot, so it's like the end part of it. Right. So you see like him pulling it off with like blood spill. Wolfman looks on as he's doing this. Felix comes in the room and he's freaking out at the guy, saying, don't take off your boot. Yeah. I mean, the dude already did, but he's like, don't take off the boot. You'll get DNA everywhere. Right. DNA already is everywhere.
I was like, what?
And Sheepman's like, well, I'll just clean up the mess later. And Felix gets all butthurt. Like, are you suggesting that this is my fault? I don't know where that came from, but if someone's feeling a little insecure.
Yeah.
So Felix is going on and on about how everybody's messed everything up and he had to stab his own brother when they were supposed to be doing it and they were getting beat by a random girl. Erin is on the other side of the wall and she can hear this whole conversation at this point. So she's now learning that Felix is part of this. Sheepman stands up saying that his brother is laying on the floor dead. And unlike Felix, he liked his brother. Felix expresses concern, saying he didn't know that they were related. And at this point, Sheepman has Felix up against the wall. Then Felix says, oh, yeah, she fucked him up good. Felix, starts to get worried. He's like, I'll pay you more. I'll give you your brother's half plus $100,000. That'll be $500,000 for your efforts. You'll get $500,000. He'll get $300,000. Everything will be fine. And Felix is like, I can pay you when I get my inheritance. Right. It's like, bitch, you better have your inheritance before like all this went down.
This is also where we find out that the guy, because when he said, that's my brother laying dead there, and Felix like, oh, I didn't realize he was really your brother. I thought you were just in the military together.
Yeah.
So that's where we find out he was in the military. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sheepman looks at Wolfman, and Wolfman says, well, this is what we came for. At this point, Erin's phone goes off. And Felix looks around. Sheepman that says he's got it. And it happened to be 911 going through saying they got the message. Sheepman is walking towards the curtain. And Erin has her hands up as if that she was ready to box. She ends up punching him hard as he gets close. And she runs. Felix yells at him to get up and go after her. Erin runs outside and she runs out of this door, and the way the house is made, she's able to run over into the kitchen. Everybody runs outside and goes the opposite direction except for Sheepman. Sheepman's the only one that is thinking and says, hey, maybe I should try this one. So he starts going into the door and he peeks around the corner. As he's doing this, Erin was hiding on the other side and she plants a knife right into his eye and he falls over dead. She looks over him with an axe and walks away. We see her walking through the house, finding objects to use as traps. Now we're at the front door where she's completing the touches of a trap that she has at the door. Felix and Wolfman is outside and he's freaking out about the cops. Wolfman says he's going back into the house to check on Craig, which happens to be Sheepman. Well, the surviving Sheepman that is dead at this point. Yeah. And Felix and Z should walk the road. And Felix asks for the crossbow in case they see Erin. And Wolfman says, well, you only have 2 bolts and 2 shots. Make it count. Now we're seeing Erin. She's admiring her trap that she made. As she's looking at the front door, she hears glass behind her. And now we see Wolfman, and she runs. as he stares at her. She goes into the basement, and as she is, she's breaking all the lights with a brick. Wolfman walks into the basement with the machete first. It almost looks like as he's walking through the door with the shadow that he's walking penis first. So I'm not sure if that was like symbolic or phallic or whatever, but that's what it looked like. Is that he was walking because like when he gets to the full shadow, his hand is down by his waist, and the machete looks like his dick.
Yeah.
At this point, we see a light flashing in part of the basement. He looks over at it and he starts walking towards it. If we've learned anything from Poltergeist, you don't go to the light.
Yeah, and this part I was confused. I didn't know if it was some sort of artistic styling, like, that was going on, like they were making the movie look like there was a picture being taken, or if there was a camera taking pictures. At first, I thought it was just some sort of styling they were doing to give it this look.
And that makes sense only because like they did introduce her camera in the beginning, but they didn't really show her grabbing it.
Yeah, I completely forgot she even had the camera.
Right. So she's using the camera to lure him close to her. It appears to be as like on a self timer, like every few seconds, because it keeps going off and off and off and off. As he gets closer, Erin ends up hitting him. I'm not sure if it was with the mallet, but she ended up making mashed potatoes. So that I mashed up brains and potatoes to make potatoes.
Potatoes. I didn't even notice that you said that.
The next scene, she's coming out of the basement, and she definitely looks worse for the wear. She's feeling beat at this point. You can tell.
Well, she's doing all the heavy lifting.
She is. So the next scene is Felix is outside with the crossbow, and it's aimed right at her because she's standing in front of the window. Erin leans over, picks up a knife. She ends up looking behind her when Felix shoots. She ends up falling backwards. They think that, oh, we got her. Felix and Z smile, like as if, hey, we did good.
Yeah, finally, it's over.
Right. And Z as if she's the bad guy.
Right. And all the while, I'm like, you still have Crispin, wherever the fuck he is. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Oh, yeah. I've seen it a few times. I love that movie.
See, this movie would be fantastic if they flipped the roles, too. Like, just to kind of show it from the bad guy's point of view. Not make it a comedy, but flip it around because everybody is someone else's bad guy. It would be kind of cool to kind of see how they would develop that. But I digress.
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting.
So Z takes the crossbow as they're walking back into the house. Felix goes back outside and turns off the signal jammer and pulls out a knife, like a little tiny pocket knife. And Z at this point is walking through the house with a crossbow. Erin surprise attacks her in the kitchen. Erin's really good about surprise attacking people. Yeah. She ends up having Z on the floor when Felix walks in. She sees Felix, grabs the pot of once boiling liquid and throws it at him. And Felix just looks at her, it's like, it's not even hot, you dumb bitch.
That was funny.
But then he ends up slipping on it. Z bites Erin's hand, and Erin throws Z to the ground. Erin turns towards Felix. Z jumps on her back. This is going to be a pretty, like, almost a rapid fire sort of thing.
Right, very Fever Lake-like.
Right, like.
Yeah.
She slams Z into the cabinet and turns around and starts choking her. Felix stabs her in the back, literally and figuratively. Z falls to the floor, coughing. Erin grabs a blender and smashes it against Felix's head. And it's not a plastic blender. It's like a really heavy-duty glass blender.
Right.
And she flips it over and slams it, blade first, down on top of his head. And she ends up plugging it in and turns it on and makes brain smoothies.
Yeah, that was a cool part.
It was. Yeah. Z looks at her in a very angry way. And Erin turns around, takes the knife out of her back, and plunges it straight down on the top of her head. I mean, there was no long-winded speeches or anything. It was just like, knife, head.
Right. I am the final girl.
Erin falls in pain against the stove, and she's sitting next to Felix. She's looking around at everything to say, yeah, I did this. Not necessarily in a proud way, but this happened.
Yeah.
Kind of like when my pipes burst that winter. I just sat there. I'm like, yeah, this is happening. So as she's looking around, a phone goes off, and it happens to be in Felix's pocket. Erin picks up the phone and answers it, but she's not saying anything. And we hear a voice on the other side saying, Felix, is it all done? And we realize it's Crispin's voice. We see Crispin outside on his phone, seemingly in a panic. He's going on this long winded explanation about why he couldn't be part of it. He's like, as soon as I saw mom's blood, I couldn't do it. It's like, this would happen because I'm a pacifist, you know, but I'm going to come inside and check on you. As he's walking through, he sees the mess in the dining room and the foyer and stuff, and he's kind of got this look on his face like something isn't right, aside from his family being killed. Like
Right.
something's not right about this scenario. And he keeps saying Felix's name. And he's like, I can hear your voice. I can hear you breathing. Like, why aren't you answering me? As he's saying this, Erin comes up behind him with Felix's phone still to her ear. He turns around and he's feigning concern, like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay. She just drops the phone with a thud. He looks down at her hand and she's got a knife with her. He looks on and asks where Felix is. She's just like, he's dead. Like, just very, very nonchalantly, very dry. He's dead.
Yeah.
How did he die? I killed him with a blender. Okay. She's like, can't believe that you were part of all this. He's like, you know how broke we are. She says that you were going to kill me. He's like, no, you were supposed to be the witness, as if that was going to be like okay with her.
Right.
Like, you're going to be the unwitting witness. Like, oh, that makes everything better.
Yeah, because they needed a witness, and he specifically said other than Z, obviously, but they needed a witness who had no ties to the family and could just be like, "Oh shit, this is what happened."
And he explains that the plan was for her to be completely unharmed. He ends up asking, "Where's Z?" Like, kill her too. He's like, "Oh, that makes sense." And he states that he had no idea that she was this good at killing people, which is kind of weird. And he's going on to say, if you act normally through all of this, my parents and siblings would be dead. She would be alive and they would both be rich.
And they don't have to pay anybody either.
Right. Don't have to pay anybody. They get all the money. He says the silver lining is now he's rich and they can be rich together.
Right.
So he's really, really trying to sell this whole idea.
And apparently she has $500,000 worth of fucking student loans. Like, where the fuck is she going to school?
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, I've got student loans, but I'm not at 500,000. I mean,
she's been going her whole life.
Right. I mean, considering that federal loans, they stop at 60,000.
Maybe she got a federal loan from every country in the world.
Maybe. He's still trying to sell her, on the idea of a better life. And the whole time she's just looking at him quietly and still continuing to sell the money. Then he says, if I go to jail, then you get nothing. He says that he loves her. And then she just like ninja stabs him in the side of the throat. Like, you don't see it coming. It's just like, boom.
Oh, yeah. Because for a minute there, I thought she was actually considering it.
Right.
Because she had a little bit of a look like she was mulling it over.
Right.
But then, bam.
As she does this, he gurgles out, why?
Yeah.
And she's like, why the fuck not? And stabs him in the eye. Right. Then we hear a loud pop that comes out of nowhere. And she falls over. Might I add, an unannounced police officer was leaning in the window. He looks around at the scene and he runs off. Last I knew, police officer has to announce himself before he does anything. And even if it's that quick, it's like, drop the knife, police. Right. Yeah, but at the same time, she had already killed them. So, I mean...
maybe he was leaning in, saw that they were there, and was going to say something, but he saw her stab him in the eye, so he just was like, fuck, I don't have time to say shit, and shoots her.
Baby. So the camera goes to Erin, and she's still alive, and she's laying on top of Crispin, and she's slowly moving away. We're back at the police officer. He's at his car. He's calling for help. Erin is slowly crawling across the floor, and the cop starts walking towards the front door, and he opens the door just enough for Erin to see, and she says, no, don't. He sets off the trap that she laid. An axe tied to a brick comes swinging down, a splatter noise happens, and the end title, Your Next is in Blood, and then the credit rolls.
Okay, so I really liked this movie. It started off with something right away, and the only lull per se was when everybody in the family was greeting each other, and then up into the beginning of dinner. But then once dinner got going and everybody was fighting, from that point on, it was pure and utter chaos for a while. But it was chaotic, and like I was saying, it was funny because they were still throwing jabs at each other.
Yeah,
all this shit going on
in the middle of like a significantly traumatic scenario.
Right. Yeah. There was constant action. I liked the final girl thing where she was the one who basically took charge of everything and was going crazy, not going crazy in a bad way, but just like, I've got this shit.
But what I liked about it too with her was the no nonsense kills.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like matter of fact.
Yeah, it was just matter of fact. It wasn't like any kind of like, oh, you have a chance or this or this.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, you did this, you're dead. Boom, 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 gone.
Right. Yeah, there was no chance of that sudden, "Oh, they're gonna come back from the dead." No.
Right.
She
Right.
got him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point in the movie, because there were a few times where I knew there had to be an inside man somewhere. I just wasn't sure who the inside man was. They kind of made it seem like, oh, there was just some random crazy person out there killing people because they killed the neighbors. Now they're at this house and they're just going to kill these people. But you knew there had to probably be something more to it. So at first I thought maybe she's the inside man. She's setting this all up for whatever reason. Like she started dating this guy, maybe knew he had a bunch of money. I thought that for like half a second. Like,
Yeah.
the only other thing that was bothering me was Z and Felix, because every time stuff was going on, those 2 either had a "I don't give a fuck" look on their face, like they weren't over. I mean, I get the shock of everything that's going on, but theirs wasn't so much shock as it was, "I'm bored." Kind of look on their face. They're the first ones to run out and hide in the room, probably hoping
Yeah.
that everyone was gonna get massacred at that point in time, and that was gonna be it. Then I thought of Crispin, but because the 2 of them, like, she seemed really strong compared to Crispin, and I thought maybe he's just a patsy
Right.
and she's in on it with somebody else. But I really liked all of it. I like it was nicely paced. It had a lot of action going on. There was humor going on. It reminded me of some other movie, but I still can't quite figure out what that movie is. But there's another movie that has a similar feel to it, along with that kind of action and all of that that's going on. And not necessarily the story or anything like that, just the feel of the movie and the way it was paced and the humor that was in it as well. It reminded me of something else. Part of me is like in my brain is like Knives Out, but I'm not 100% sure if it's that
I haven't seen that yet.
or there was that movie that had the woman, the people that were being hunted. Was it called Hunted?
Was it The Hunt?
It could have been The Hunt. Yeah, it may have just been The Hunt.
There's another movie. This rich family has a son who ends up wanting to marry this
Yeah.
girl, and they have to bring her into the house.
Right. That's the
And
other
there's a
movie.
game, and I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah, yeah.
remember the name of that one now.
Yeah, that's the other movie I was like, it had a similar feel to that maybe. I couldn't figure out which movie it was because 'cause it's been a while since I've seen each of those movies, but it had just that kind of feel to it. Where there's just, like, all this shit going on and it's chaotic but funny. But anyway, I liked it. I would probably give it an 8 because I did enjoy it. It was a fun movie. It didn't have a whole lot of, like, plot holes that I could find or things that I mean, there were things that were like, "Why'd they do that?" But not really a plot hole per se where it didn't make any sense or stuff. But yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay, so the movie that we were thinking of was Ready or Not.
Yes. Ready or not.
Yeah, when I first saw this movie, like I said a couple of years ago, there was something about it. I don't know what made me not like it or not make me like it as much.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why. I mean, sometimes I have to watch a movie a couple times because like I might be in a mood. You
Right?
know, I might not be fully interested at the time when I first watched it, but watching it this time, much like you, like I really, really enjoyed it. Like I cannot pick why I didn't like this movie.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm just going to be reiterating a lot of what you said.
Uh-huh.
But there were some music pieces that were very reminiscent of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they
Like
were.
towards the end,
Mhm.
um, it was just like it really reminded me of like Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just didn't fit all that well
Yeah.
because it was like that heavy '80s synthesized music, and they
Right.
had like more modern music throughout the rest of it.
Yeah, because to me, it reminded me of Stranger Things. I was like, "What's the Stranger Things music coming on here for?"
I mean, even though it felt out of place, it wasn't like detracting from the movie. It was good to see like a really strong final girl. I do think the ending would have been slightly better if the cop did end up killing her and he
Oh,
walked through
mhm.
and just because of like the way the movie went and the ending was like so unexpected, like you didn't really expect her to get shot, you know, because you weren't
Yeah.
thinking about the cops. It just kind of felt like the ending would have been slightly better if she did end up dying, because like after that, I'm a sick individual anyway. I think that Mist is the funniest ending of any movie I've ever seen. And just to tell you how fucked up I am with movies.
I didn't think it was hilarious, but I loved the ending of The Mist. Yeah.
I mean, come on. The man shoots everybody and then he steps out of the car and 2 minutes later he's saved.
Right. Yeah. And it was a better ending than the actual story.
Right. And Stephen King agrees.
Yeah.
So he said that in an interview. Anyway, I just kind of felt like that it just would have been a stronger ending to me if she would have died and then have the cop come through and then him die as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So just have like everybody
Everybody's
gone.
dead.
Like everybody's
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still not bad that, she lived. It's just she's going to be like the blame for everything.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, death or like 150 years in prison. Or depending what state they're in, the death penalty.
Right. I would hope, though, that they could see that there are people there who are dressed in black and have masks. And then she's got the camera footage of the guy coming for her.
Right.
I would hope that she explained that. Of course, she'd have to explain, well, why did you kill all these people, the two brothers and Z?
Right.
Of course, she'd have to just be like, well, they were motherfuckers were in on it and hope they'd believe her. But yeah.
So for me, I'm about the same 8.5. I like the ending tweaked a little bit, but at the same time, like you said, it's a fun movie. I mean, it didn't really let up all that much, and when it did, it didn't last long.
So anyway, anything else?
We can put a sock on it.
That's it for Your Next, a movie that reminds us sometimes the deadliest person at the table isn't the one in a mask, it's the one who brought a casserole and a kill count. Next week, we're headed into the woods for He's Out There, where a mother, her two daughters, and one very unwelcome visitor turn a family getaway into a twisted game of survival. Think red string traps, eerie storybooks, and the kind of childhood trauma you don't walk off. You can watch He's Out There on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, YouTube, Peacock, or the Roku channel. And as always, be scared, be prepared, and don't get caught in the dark.